Welcome to the new Overlords Podcast, a video game show where I'm joined every week by someone who combines the planning skills of Queen Isabella with the cultural flair of Catherine the Great. It's Sema. Hello there, Sema.
Well, that's a lot of queens all at once.
Yes, it is. I've
Hello,
been playing
Max.
Civilization, can you tell?
Oh, now I get it. No, I couldn't tell.
Yeah, well, I'll talk a little bit about Isabella in particular, and Catherine the Great, who in her intro says, "Call me Sophie," which I had to look up why she says that, but it makes sense. But we'll talk about that in just a second. We also have a guest on the show, Tyler. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to the show. Really cool having you on here. I know who you are. Sema knows a little bit of who you are. Why don't you introduce yourself, and I'll embellish your introduction after you introduce yourself in a second.
So I'm a visual effects artist. Been working in visual effects for like 15 years, and I am also working on the video game with Max.
Yes. So Tyler is our tech art, 3D modeler, animator, all of those texture, all that kind of stuff in the video game, which, our little indie studio is probably not going to show up on his IMDb page, but I don't know what. The first time I started talking to you, learning about your skill set and your background, this just fascinated me so much that you've got an IMDb page. So Tyler said he works in VFX, but it's Hollywood, so big. I mean, I know you say you keep forgetting to update your page, but you've worked on some big stuff, especially in the last couple of years. So that is super cool. But even going back a few years ago, the stuff that you've got on here is super cool too. But Stranger Things, I know you've worked on a bunch of shows.
Yeah,
that's
a lot of TV lately.
Yeah, so that's fascinating. Every once in a while, we're doing something for the studio, and Tyler will say, next couple of weeks are gonna be a little dicey. We're doing the series finale for blah blah blah, and I'm like, that is super cool. And feel free, take as much time as you need. And now I got to go watch the previous seasons so I can catch up and and watch it. But that's cool. But yes, also on the game. So Tyler does all that stuff on our game. Do you want to just describe we've got Julia who does all the concept art. So she'll sketch things out.
Art direction.
And then you grab that. Okay, so this is going to mess up your video here for just a second, but I'm going to I should have pulled it out sooner. Why don't we show off what you've been working on this week, which I think is awesome. Let me pull it out into the browser and we can go back here so your video shows up properly. There we go. There he is. So we're getting a new animal added into the game this week. Julia did the concept art to sort of sketch it out. So she sort of just got a vision for what all the little animals look like. So they all kind of match in a composition.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, then Tyler takes them. It just takes the stuff that Julia does and makes it real. So
gives it life.
Just make 3D button.
So this was done. So you did this so far in Maya and just the sculpting part, right?
That's ZBrush.
ZBrush. Okay.
Yeah, so I've only done ZBrush so far. Started with a sphere and put Julia's concept in the background, and then just worked off of that.
Yeah, it's always starting with Blender. You always start with the default cube.
Yep.
The sculpting, you always start with a sphere. You start mashing it around. I always thought it was hilarious, and a bunch of the videos now play off of it. Every Blender tutorial video out there, it always starts with, first we delete the default cube. Every single 90% of them, it's like, okay, open Blender, delete the default cube. I don't even know why they have it anymore, because that's it's
like a meme at this point.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so he's looking pretty good. He's a chunky boy. Our raccoon, and next you're going to go into Maya and texture it up, right?
So I'll do the retopologizing, because right now the mesh is really dense. It's not optimized for animation yet. It's just for detail. So right now there's like, I don't know, 1,000,000 polygons, something like that,
Yeah.
and we have to knock it back down to like 10,000.
Yeah.
So so it's redrawing on top of what I did in a way that optimizes the topology.
And do you
And
do that by hand, or do you have a tools or a combo? How do you do
combo.
retopo?
So ZBrush does a little auto topology. I can sort of draw lines where I want them to be. I can draw rings around the tail, for example.
Yep.
And like um you can draw like the bandit mask thing around the eyes so that you keep the eye topology.
Yeah.
Same with the mouth. And then that tells the program with a weighted slider how closely to follow that.
Okay.
So on one side it's follow this exactly, on the other side it's follow the topology.
I've done just a few projects in Blender, all the way from sculpting through retopology and then into animation. And that was just one of the most mind-numbing steps, was the retopo. I did not enjoy that. And I did it all manually on like a big thing. So
I I kind of enjoy it at this point. I've done it for so long that it's sort of like a zen, like, I don't know, it's like a puzzle.
yeah, which I
It's
could
like
see.
you're
And
doing a Sudoku puzzle or
like watching people
something
who are
like that.
really good at it. Yeah, I bet. Yeah, and I bet you can like watch YouTube on the side or whatever and just go, be just like click, click, click,
You're
drag, drag,
twitching.
drag.
Yep.
That's super cool. All right. Well, we're going to talk about video games this week. We're going to talk about Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which Tyler, you played a bunch of that, right? So we'll learn from
18
you.
hours. Yeah.
What'd you say? 18?
14 so
14?
far.
Because I played
Yeah.
about 18 hours myself of Civ
Oh,
7.
nice.
So
Alright.
that's what I'll talk about. But first, we've got a little bit of news.
Good news, everyone!
So first up in the news, as I predicted and was hoping that it would come out today, No Man's Sky did release their Expedition 17 as part of their Worlds Part 2 update. So we talked about this the last couple of weeks. What they did in Worlds Part 2 is they added 2 new styles of planets to the galaxy, and there's like story to unlock it. And the 2 planets are gas giants and then water planets with very deep oceans, so deep that you need like new tech to be able to go down to the bottom, and they're like 1,000 meters deep. They're taking a bunch of the skills and tech that they've got from working on Light No Fire, which includes larger and larger planet size. I mean, Light No Fire in theory is going to be basically scaled to Earth size, procedurally generated single planet, and everybody's going to play on that. But they made these gas giants 10 times bigger than any current planet in the No Man's Sky galaxy, and they added them into new star systems. So I flew around. I got to see the gas giants. They're super cool. It's you fly down onto them. It's definitely like a style. Somebody was asking about it today. How close to a gas giant experience is it? It's stylized. You're not going through 10 miles of atmosphere and then into a pool of metallic hydrogen, which is what's theorized to be at the core of gas giants. But they did a pretty cool surface. It's constantly stormy there. They do have like crystal deposits, like crystallized hydrogen deposits that you mine, and there's like gas and methane that sort of like condenses and bubbles out of the ground, and so it's really cool. What I couldn't find is one of the water planets. So I flew around for a while, like a half hour jumping from system to system. I did not find one of the big new water planets with deep oceans. So that's why I was so excited about the expedition. What the expedition's going to have you do, and this is what they do with any expedition associated with one of their expansions, one of their updates, is they focus all of the objectives and lead you along. You start a new game, you start a new save, and there's sort of 5 phases. And each of the phases, and you could already tell by looking at the objectives, I peeked at it this morning already. It says, land on a gas giant planet. So, okay, we get to see a gas giant planet. And it's one that they've picked out, obviously. And then there's, further, like phase 3 is explore the deep ocean of the 3rd planet. So I'll get to see one, and that's what I was hoping for. So I didn't even spend very much time looking for deep oceans because I knew when the expedition came, they would just take us to one. So yeah, can't wait. Cool rewards with those two. I'll talk about this, I'm sure, a ton more next week. Do you play any No Man's Sky, Tyler?
I haven't played since they added the full featured co-op.
Yeah, right. Which is
I'd like to
long
get
time.
back into it.
probably
Yeah,
about 5 years or so. But
Yeah, something like that.
um,
I played with a friend and we had like a base setup and that kind of thing, but
yeah, that's
gotta
super cool.
convince him to get back on.
Yeah. Let's see. Next up, Sema, why don't you tell us what Phil Spencer has in store for us?
Oh, good old Phil.
Phil,
Um,
we like Phil.
I
don't
like.
we? I like Phil.
I do. I do.
I know.
Yeah.
he's-
I feel like Cloris Leachman and Young Frankenstein. He is my boyfriend.
He is
So I
a
do
Frankenstein
like
of the industry. Yeah.
I do like it when he makes an announcement, and I like the announcement. But anyway, he's just basically talking about how that they want Xbox games on as many platforms as possible, but specifically this announcement was about Nintendo Switch.
Yes.
So I got the feeling that basically what he's saying is they're moving away from exclusivity, like trying to push their hardware by limiting where their games can be played. Like he was saying, the game comes first.
Yeah.
Like while we wish and like it when people play on our hardware, the game comes first. So of course I love that.
Absolutely. So I'm excited about that too for them. Like I don't have a Nintendo Switch yet. I may get one. But I always thought this was a good strategy. I also think it's good as a gamer, and it's good for the industry to continue to break down those walls of console exclusivity. Nintendo and Sony don't completely agree with that yet, but Microsoft is definitely moving harder and harder in that direction. They have already done it between Windows and Xbox, Windows and their console, but pushing more and more to the other consoles, having releases, coordinated releases, fewer and fewer exclusive titles. I think would be great for everybody. Just a couple of other minor release date announcement came up because I know a lot of people are focused on it. Elden Ring Night Rain got announced as the release date of May 30th. So we'll be excited to see that in a few months. And a price tag. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to mention that their trailer does have, like, right near the beginning of the trailer does have a glider. I mean, it's a bird,
Elden
but
Ring?
it's a glider. Yeah.
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 I'm just saying how many games have gliders.
Well, they've said it's supposed to be a little bit survival-ish. So you got to have a glider then. That's the checklist. Yeah. So the 30th, priced at $40. That was also a surprise to me.
Yeah.
That it was only 40.
Yeah. Right.
So it seems like they're positioning it as a side title and not like a main, one of their main titles.
Or they're going to have a cash shop.
Or good. Ooh, Sema, thinking like an executive.
Or like a $30 deluxe edition kind of thing.
Yes.
$30 price tag.
Yeah.
$30 in addition.
Yeah.
$70.
Right. To get like 3 days of early access and a special glider.
This next little story you dropped in, Tyler. Why don't you tell us what Valve's got for us this week as news?
So, yeah, it looks like Valve is banning in-game advertising. I think specifically games that make you watch advertising.
Right.
So I don't know if that necessarily means like, Saints Row had like in-game billboards with actual ads,
right.
that kind of thing.
Yeah. So I agree. I think it's, you can't, you've played enough for today. Watch 2 ads, then you can unlock more coins to play. Keep your garden growing. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I have two thoughts on this. Multiple thoughts. I have many thoughts. I said a little bit of this in the pre-show, which was, I think this is good. I like that they're doing this because it's good for me as a gamer. I don't like those kinds of games, but there's a little bit of the flip side of the argument that always pops into my head. There's sort of like the devil's advocate, which whenever anyone wants to sort of like rail against or constrain or ban or get rid of any kind of monetization model, be that loot boxes or cash shop. People hate cash shops. We should never have a cash shop. We shouldn't have ad supported games. Whenever you do that, that's fine. And maybe the world's a better place for doing that, but it will mean fewer games get made. And it will mean some studios aren't able to make the game that they wanted to make. Because there's some games that just don't work as, hey, buy this game for $10 or $5 and we can put a team together that will, continue to run it and keep it and make it work. If you tried to do this on mobile, for example, I think mobile games would die because it's a key monetization model that makes that platform work. Now,
I don't know. I
don't
think
know.
I don't know. I think
it's
it's a
just a devil's advocate.
monetization model that makes it wildly work. Like I think it could still work. Like
True.
when I was first playing Candy Crush and it first started to get bad with like basically pay to win. I at the time I thought, I would rather just pay for this game
Yeah.
than do that.
True.
But if I pay $5 a month, that's not as much as the people who are paying like hundreds of dollars for boosts. But I still think
it's not
Candy
that
Crush would still be successful, but maybe they wouldn't make
billions.
I don't know. Like
Candy
yeah,
Crush
like
makes billions.
yes, they do, but I don't know how many of that is from the people who have poor decision-making skills.
True. Yeah. But yeah, so I think it's interesting. I like that Valve. I really do though like that Valve works hard to curate their ecosystem. They can do this because they own their ecosystem, and that's cool. As long as they don't ban little indie games about robots taking care of animals in a ecosystem. Ban everyone. 4 out of 5 indie studios say it doesn't hurt me if you ban everyone else's games. Yeah, that reminds me. What was it? It was the traffic survey. 4 out of 5 drivers in metro traffic think everyone else should drive less. Quick rundown of the release date news, just as we wrap up on the news segment. Avowed is coming out next week, so that is in 6 days. I will be playing Avowed. That looks really cool. I have to play No Man's Sky this weekend. We'll probably talk about No Man's Sky next week. I'll play Avowed next week, and we'll talk about Avowed then the week after. I threw this one in because it showed up on the list, and I know a couple people really love these games. I've never played a Like a Dragon game, but the next one is coming out in 2 weeks. Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. That is a title and a concept. So those games are really weird and wild and fun when in their mainstream games. And this is sort of like another chapter. They can put these games out and people just love what they do with it. So I'm all for it. Have fun with that. And maybe I'll play one someday. The 2 others I had were Split Fiction is coming out on March 6th. So that's not too long after. That's about like 3 weeks out now, or 4 weeks. And Split Fiction, I need to look into more. I love the look of it and the concept. What I don't like is the platforming. I don't like that kind of game as much. And how co-op-y is it? Can you play it? Can you even play it solo? Did you find that out, Sema? Can you play it solo with an AI partner?
No.
Only co-op?
Yep.
Really? Yes,
And that's
wild.
That's what that studio is known for. They've had some previous games that were all only co-op.
That's cool. I admire it. But bold move, Cotton.
I mean, I think there's enough market for everyone.
Sure.
To have their thing.
Good point. We had a great interview with Lucia from Mayhem. What was their game? Mayhem Games
It was
Studio.
called We Were There or something like that.
We Were There series.
Yeah,
Uh,
she was
and we
really
played that.
interesting.
You and I played that together, co-op. But that was so well designed for that, which I'm sure this might be too from an action
Yes,
perspective.
but the problem for me with that game is that I was really bad at it.
No, you weren't. It was
So it was like pressure the whole time. Like you were figuring out the hints on your side right away, and I was like, but I don't get it. Where should I? What that thing? Like
it was like like a first person view in-world puzzle game, and there was like two sides of the puzzle. Like we're each separated on either side of a wall, and I have to flip some switches, and that does something on Sema's side, which tells her which switches she needs to flip, and then back and forth, and we got to like communicate over voice, and then we unlock the door, that kind of thing.
Right, and you have to describe what you see to the other person so they know what to do.
Cool.
The last one on the list, just because I like it, but it's a little bit further out. It's at the end of March, but a couple like release date news items and a couple videos have come up. Is this Atomfall? I'm kind of excited about this. I like the aesthetic. It's kind of at first glance. Now people are saying no, it's not. It's not very much like Fallout, but at first glance, it seems a lot like Fallout.
It. Yeah.
It's a post-apocalyptic part of a world, as if in like around I think it was like around the 80s or so, as if there was a nuclear accident in England on outside of London that like nuked an area. So it's not like the world's come to an end. It's only this area that like had the big problem. But there's still like townspeople there you get to talk to. There's things you're discovering. There's adventures you go on. But there's also seems to be like bad things happening, and you're trying to like find your way, and you're like stuck in this post-apocalyptic zone of England, and it looks really good, and everybody's got the cool accents, which I really like. Yeah, see, there's a little bit of zombie stuff going on. Definitely some fighting.
Art style.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. Might end up checking that out in a couple months. All right. But that is it for our news. This podcast, of course, is brought to you by the game that Tyler and I and our team is working on. It's called Garden and a Goat, the upcoming game from Contemplation Games. Go to gardenandagoat.com. I do want to mention, and our game aside, one of the top things you can do for any indie studio that you want to support turns out, is wish listing. So wish list every indie game that you think is kind of cool. That's a big deal for for indie games to get them exposure. We're not looking for like a publisher, but it helps them get publishers and gets deals like that. And it gets them like bumped up on special lists and invited to like Steam Fest kind of things and that kind of thing too. So do some wish list, and sure, wish list Garden and a Goat while you're at it. Podcast is also brought to you by Alea Act Est, our gaming community, aie-guild.org. Go check that out. Got a lot going on in there. It is awesome. And it's also brought to you by all of you out there watching and listening, everyone in the chat room right now. Forster, Stask, Lucy, like the usual suspects and the people that return. We really appreciate it. We like talking and chatting with everybody in there, and people keeping us on track and telling us when we're wrong, which I do appreciate. I do not mind being corrected, and I will own up to my mistakes. I feel bad about myself for being so dumb. But next, we're going to talk about some games.
It looks like meat's back on our menu, boys.
No way. God. Finally.
Oh, I kind of like the mango bread.
Tyler, tell me about. So we talked about this on the show. Why is this not going full screen for me? What's up with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2? Now, you said you've been playing these games for a long time, haven't you?
Yeah, so the first one was a free game on the Epic Games Store during the COVID lockdown, and I was like super bored, just like there wasn't a lot of VFX work to do, sitting at home, and I put like 70 hours into the first game.
Cool. So I didn't realize it was that recent. Well, of course, that's not that recent anymore. I keep thinking, oh, COVID. You mean like last year? Yeah,
Right.
it's like 5 years ago now. So this is just their second one. So the first one was like 2019, 2020, and this is
Yeah.
just the second one they've ever put out in this series. Cool.
Yeah, and it's crazy because the first one ended pretty abruptly, where it was almost like on a cliffhanger, like, oh, what? Like that's the end of the like. There's supposed to be like this big battle, and you kind of it just cuts off,
Huh.
and then they went dark for a little bit. But I've been following the like dev blogs and stuff for the last couple years since they've announced it.
So it's RPG. It's sort of
Yep.
like
Open
an
world.
adventure, open world RPG, very story driven. Then would you say?
Yeah, pretty story driven. It's a lot like it reminds me of Skyrim a lot,
Okay.
minus the magic. Like if you like Skyrim and you're okay with no magic, this is probably right up your alley. I would say like the voice acting and the story is probably a little bit better.
Cool.
Like the performances.
I used to be an
like you can
adventurer
see the-
like you. Till I took an arrow in the knee. That guy's got an
the
arrow in his
graphics are
shoulder.
great.
Yeah, it's
The
looking really good.
animation.
So one of the things I also know that that's known for. So it's you said open world. So it's narrative but open world. How many like what percentage would you say is like main quest versus like side quests or like wandering around or just doing
It's
nothing?
so I've spent I don't know like 14 15 hours so far. But in the first one I would say 60-40.
60% sort of like main story stuff and then 40% ability to like go off script and
Yeah,
go do
or
other stuff, side quests.
maybe even 50-50. There's different levels of, so you have side quests and then you have just like random encounters. So as you're traveling along you might run into uh like a bandit ambush, or
Yep.
you can run into a dude that needs help chasing down his horse, or kind of
Yeah.
similar to like Red Dead and those kinds of encounters when you run around and see things like that happening.
Yeah, here's
And
one on the
it
video
helps.
that IGN showed off where you're just walking through the town and there's these two sword fighting schools, and you come across them kind of like talking smack to each other in the street, and you can like get involved if you want.
Cool. I haven't even gotten that far yet. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that. Yeah, you'll see. Like I was playing earlier today. I saw a dude on horseback get stopped by two bandits, and then he ran up or he was trying to run away, and so I had to like run in and save him and kill the two bandits. They ended up killing me though. That's, that's the other thing is like
That's how I
games-
play games.
yeah, it's pretty unforgiving, especially early. Like if you are thinking about getting it, I would say stick with the main story at least for a little bit till you get like a full, set of gear. Because like
Yeah.
you'll kind of start off like, um, without any spoilers, you don't start off with much, and you have to like, work your way back up to having like full set of armor and that kind of thing. And if you don't have like a helmet on and you get whacked in the head, it's you got to try again. It's game over.
Okay. So do you have a helmet now? Because that was that
I do,
reminds
yeah.
me. Okay. Do you have to like are you like looking through a mail slot? Like like I've seen in some of these trailer videos to like do like fight with your helmet on?
If you have that kind of helmet, yeah. But you can have like an open,
Oh, okay.
like like a skull cap one kind of one. There's different ones, and they have different attributes and different um strengths and weaknesses for each. Like the archers typically have those like fully open ones, and if you're more like melee combat, you might have the one with the slits in it.
Yeah. I did not like the look of that, but it's just me. I don't like anything that
You can
obscures
flip
my
it up.
view. I
I'm
was
pretty
playing
sure you can flip it up.
Oh, to like flip it up.
Mhm.
Like Monty
And that's
Python,
only if you need the oh yeah.
Monty Python, the Holy Grail. Um, cool. Tell me about the combat then, while we're on that, because that was another
Yeah,
thing
so
this is known for, right?
the first one had like a it might it was either 6 or 8-way directional um mouse movement. So as you're swinging, you could swing from the lower left or the upper right. This one now is just up, down, left, right. So they simplified it, and I was kind of worried at first. I was like, "Oh man, is that going to feel bad? Like I won't have as much to do?" And no, it still feels really good. Um, you're kind of working around the blocking of the opponent. Um, it feels really fluid and nice.
Okay.
Like it has like a perfect block
Yep.
riposte
Yep.
kind of mechanic, and you can get caught in a loop where like it's kind of cool. Um, you and your opponent will block, block, attack, like and just trade counters. Um, and so sometimes you have to block and then just not attack, back up, and then let them work back into you.
Interesting.
There's a lot of it's almost like a puzzle, every time you fight somebody,
Interesting.
and then um the armor plays into like where you're hitting them. So if they are just wearing a hat or something, you hit them in the head, it'll take a huge chunk of damage.
Okay.
So yeah, you got to aim for like the weak spots. It's pretty cool. And each weapon has like if you have a bludgeoning weapon, you'll do better against like plate mail. If you have a sword, you'll do better against like flesh, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, that's nice. And you said the combat feels good, and you're playing mouse and keyboard. Have you tried it
Yeah,
with a controller?
I haven't.
Interesting.
I think the mouse feels really good.
Yeah.
Like because it's intuitive. Yeah, did you see how he flipped it down there?
Yeah. Yeah. This looks terrible to me.
I mean, that's only if you need like the full if you're gonna
I
fight 5
guess.
guys, I guess.
They died. He still
Like
died
if
even though he flipped
so
down his 'cause he probably died because he couldn't
that's true.
see where the damn hits were coming from. I was
Like
playing Valheim, and Valheim has like this they have camera dirt. They have camera lens dirt. Like
do they?
that seems like the worst idea to me. My eyeballs don't have camera lens dirt. That's not immersive. I don't know who thinks camera lens dirt and glare is immersive. Anyway, just make anytime people are making it so I can't see what's going on in their game, I don't like it.
This has a little blood effect on the outside. It's really like light opacity, kind of just telling you like, hey, you're really hurt right now.
Yeah, right, and like a
But it
little
doesn't
bit of
it
an
doesn't
overlay.
really yeah, it doesn't really obscure it. Like you might see it if he starts getting hit.
Yeah, that's not bad. Yeah, I haven't seen any of the really bad stuff. Where do they like? They do it. The night seems pretty dark. So how dark is the night? Is that really annoying? And how long does the night last? That's another that's another
Um,
pet peeve of mine.
oh, that's a good question. Usually you can find a bed and just sleep.
Okay.
But you can bring a torch, and honestly, I don't even think you need a torch to like look. It's not too dark. Like you can't see as much as you would in daytime, but it's not too bad. Even in the middle of the woods, I don't really find it that annoying.
Okay.
Um, but it's probably easier to just sleep.
Yeah.
As far as how long it is, I don't know. The day night cycle feels kind of long though. Like I don't know, could be 20, 30 minutes, something like that.
Got it. But that's
But I'm not. I haven't like waited out the nighttime yet.
so. What do you think, Sema? Is this the kind of Skyrim adventure you want to jump into? Oh, I remember one of the things that you and I were talking about, Sema. Romance.
Oh yeah.
Have you gotten to much of that in here? I mean, isn't that like one of the key drivers? Isn't like your girlfriend gets I have like spoilers, I guess, but
So in the first one at least, in this one I haven't gotten to any romantic anything. But in the first one, yeah, it was pretty involved as far as um who you could romance and like your options for each of them, and they all kind of had different um ways you could like gain their affection, I guess.
Sure. Okay.
So like personality plays into one might like somebody that was more like brute force, like stronger or whatever. One might like a more like charming person, that kind of thing.
Interesting.
Mm.
And so with that in mind, so it's something that Seema and I debate, and be interested in your perspective. How much does that add to the game for you, and how much do you sort of like explore that part of the game, like the you know getting the romance options? Go. Is that like, oh, now I get to do this part? Are you like excited about that? Would you rank it high? Like, where are you at on romance in games?
I would say it adds to the depth and like the overall like kind of immersiveness of it. I
Mhm.
think and and even if you're not one of those people that are like super into like the relationships in a game like this, maybe you're more into the combat. Um, or if you are, honestly, it adds a lot to it story wise. And I think, but they do a good job of like, in the first one, she would like heal your wounds or cook for you, and you would get like a buff that you could go out and fight with. Um, so there's definitely some interesting aspects to it anyway, and it's certainly worth your time.
Cool.
Interesting.
Now, I mean, free food and healing. All right, I'll go. I'll bother with the relationship.
So it's like real life.
That
Exactly.
would be terrible. That would be terrible to get in a relationship for someone to cook for you. But I guess that happens, doesn't it? Cool. Yeah. So it does sound interesting. I I really like that they try to do something different around the combat in particular, and that's something in particular that a lot of people really like. What would you say, sort of like the depth of the RPG part? Is there like a lot of stats? There's no magic, so you can't like go down that, but like builds and stats, and you said armor weapons matter, but what
Yeah.
about like the
So
stats part of it?
one thing this game does that's pretty interesting, I would say, from a lot of other games is you don't really have like a like build. I mean, you can like solely focus on one skill, but you actually like you have like a set of skills, and the more you do those things, the more you rank that thing up. So like the more you're on your horse, the more your horsemanship skill goes up. The more you hang out with your dog and have your dog uh like look for food, or
There's a dog?
there's a dog.
Oh,
His
now you
name's
got
Mutt.
me.
Yeah.
Can you pet it?
Of course you can. You
Okay,
can pet
well,
your
you
horse
gotta
too.
get us. You gotta get us because we're collecting them now. You gotta get the pet animation.
Okay,
Sema,
deal.
I did get your video finally. It did come through in the mail of the pet quest, the petting the animal quest in
Yeah.
WoW, and it's
Yeah.
nothing. The
I know.
the character
That's
just
why
does
Yeah, that's why I wanted to
this.
show it to you.
Yeah, the character just it's like stands wherever you're standing, 5 feet
And
away
it's
from the
like
pet, and like waves their hand in the air, and the pet just
almost like
looks
they're
at you.
kind of rubbing the ground.
How is the
If you go,
petting animation in this one, Tyler?
I think it's pretty good. There's a couple different ones. It's very affectionate and cool, and I think the relationship you have with the dog, Mutt is his name. Um, it's it's really interesting and like pretty deep. If you go to their main site, or sorry, their main YouTube channel, they have a short that's just
Oh, do
called
they?
Mutt. Yeah, and it
Good.
shows you like kind of like a little teaser of Mutt.
I think that is a really good feature.
Yeah. But yeah, so the stats are they're pretty cool. So you level up, and each level you earn a perk for that you have been working on. So whether it's lock picking, or sneaking or sword fighting, then when like you'll get like a little perk point, you go to that page under lock picking and it'll be like, oh, you now just automatically unlock very easy locks or whatever.
Got it.
And you can pick that, or it'll say like, oh, your locks have a random chance to not break. So you get to pick from a list of like little perks, I suppose, within
Nice.
that tree. So that feels pretty good. Like one thing I did in the first one a lot was like I had like a really high strength build, but I was also really charismatic, which is kind of cool. So you can like work your way out of each situation. You could either fight your way out or you could talk your way out. And this game's a lot like that too. Like if you're not like the fighting type, there's going to be combat in some situations, but you can talk your way out of, I don't know, 70% of the fights that aren't like main story quests.
Yeah. Well, that's cool.
And there's different ways to talk there's like a charisma one, and then there's another like oratory trait or something. So
Almost like
depending
a
on your
debate.
Do you get like
Yeah.
a lower type of reward if you do it that way?
It sort of depends on the quest, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes fighting them, you get a lower reward. Like it'll be like, oh well, you killed the guy, you didn't bring him back
hmm
alive or whatever, so you might get a lower reward. Your clothing also matters. So while you might be prepared for combat, you might not look as pretty and as charismatic. So they have a cool outfit system, and you can just change it on the fly. There's like 3 or 4 different options. So you can have like a charisma outfit and a like a combat outfit, or a sneaking like thief outfit.
Oh, cool.
So like if you have to have dealings with a trader or a vendor of some sort, on your way to them, you like change into your charisma outfit.
Yeah, you can do it right in front of them, just from the inventory. It's great. There's like a
Can
little
I help you,
shield.
good
and you
sir? Oh, sure. Just one second.
just-
Oh,
Let me put my
now
goofy
that
hat on.
you've put on your fancy hat, I'll give you a discount.
Yeah, and like at the beginning, people kind of treat you really poorly. They'll be like, "Oh, I don't deal with swine," or like whatever they say to you. And then the second you get like fancier clothes, they're like, "Oh, hello, good sir. Like, how can I help you?"
Again, like real life.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's a platypus. Oh, it puts on hat. Perry the platypus. It's completely different. Yeah, excellent. All right, well, it sounds pretty good. So what would you thumbs up overall? It sounds like yes, we should
Thumbs up for
put this on
sure.
the list, and yeah,
Yeah.
excellent.
One other thing, just real quick.
Yeah.
I think the an interesting thing is in the story quests. You might get a quest to go find somebody, and a lot of things tend to like unravel, and it's like, oh, this person got lost, and then you have to go, like,
Yes.
so it's like, go find him at his house, and then you go there and his wife is like looking for him, and then you have to run off and like find him because he ran off into the woods on a hunting trip, or there's some kind of interesting storytelling there that it leads you down this path. Like every little side quest has like layers and layers that are
So when
Yeah, that's interesting.
when you're playing that and those layers happen, do you feel like, oh my gosh, this is even more interesting than before. I can't wait to figure out what's going to happen when I get there. Or do you feel like, oh, this is like getting in my way. I wanted to go right to the end, and now I have to do this like side thing. I mean, what's the feeling?
I like the journey. I think it there's a lot of games where like side quests just feel mundane. It's like,
Yeah.
oh man, like I'm trying
Go
to think, like Destiny, for
kill
example, it'd be
more
like, go here,
boars.
yeah, kill 20 things in this area, and then
Right.
okay, go to this area, kill 12 things in this area. It's just like,
Right.
man,
Or
there's
I'll
only
tell
so
you
much
where
better.
he is, but first you must gather the boar's ears so I can
Yes.
make my yeah.
Yeah. What?
Yeah.
What? The world is going to end in 2 days, and the sky is falling. well, first, I need you to carry some water from the well. It's like, all right.
Right.
Okay. And then it also sounded like, just to wrap it up, we'll talk about Civ,
Mhm.
but it sounded like definitely a game where choices matter. And I kept seeing that. So if you sort of like had the feel of that so far, where you made a choice and you chose poorly yet, or how's the
Yeah.
choices?
Yeah, there's definitely like there's good choices and bad choices, and it doesn't I wouldn't say it punishes you for like a wrong choice, but maybe a bad choice. So like um your decisions have consequences, but it's not necessarily going to be like if you just straight up don't know like what the right decision is or what the right choice is, um it could maybe not matter, but it'll affect the story.
Got it.
Or there are some like actual wrong choices where you could kill like a mission giver or something, and
Yeah.
that would end that quest line, or something like that. But I would say, and obviously the saving in this game it's pretty
Ah.
unforgiving. You need like these potions.
Oh.
The first thing you get is a recipe to brew them, but it does take like some amount of time to brew some. Or you can literally just hit escape and then save and quit and quit to your desktop and then go back in. So there's that
But does it
workaround.
actually make like a version? So you could like.
It does make a new save, yeah.
Okay. All right.
So there is a workaround, but if you want to like yeah, like if you're at a really pivotal point in the story and you're like, oh man, I don't have any of the
I save
save
scum
your
constantly,
stops.
so I would do that.
Like
All right.
I've done it a couple times where I'm just like, I could screw this whole thing up.
Yeah.
Or you could not, but it's kind of up to you.
Also, because I like to jump off of things, so the first thing I would do is like save. All right, jump off of this mountaintop. Let's see what happens. I do that all over the place. All right. Well, cool. Thanks a ton for playing it. So we know if we should play it. And it sounds like we should. This sounds like a good
Yeah,
one.
I love it.
I think I'm
It's
gonna have to
great.
put it on my wish list and just to grab it when I can. But that's not what I was playing this week. I was playing Civilization 7. So have you played Civilization games much in the past, Tyler?
Played a bunch of 4 and 5 and a little of 6.
Got it. I haven't played much since maybe background 4, and then mobile a little bit in the past year or two, just here and there. I found the mobile kind of amusing, but I wanted to get back into it. As obviously they make good games in general. Sid Meier's Civilization 7 is the full title, which made me, when I thought about that, it made me say, I don't really know all that much about Sid Meier. Who's Sid Meier? And why do they continue to call it Sid Meier's Civilization and sort of like promote him in that way? And he's just an old school gamer dude. He's like a boomer. So, here's another lesson for all you, Gen Alpha out there. We call people boomers. Boomers made all the things that you like. So, so don't diss on the boomers. So so he got old school tech guy way back in the 70s and 80s, started getting into game development outside of his main tech, some tech work that he was doing. Got his name on a couple titles, and when he was working on a couple of the titles, the studios and the publishers someone encouraged him, and the Wikipedia's page says that it was Robin Williams that encouraged the publisher to put this guy's name on your box. He's like a mark of quality. And that's what they did. And now anything and they seem to just continue to use his name as like a mark of quality on these titles. I don't know how much he was actually involved in Civ 7. I didn't get to that point, I guess. Could scroll down here. See if they said he did all the work on 7. And then he's named in it, obviously. Yeah. So I don't know how much work he did directly on Civ 7, but It's fun to hear his backstory. Check it out on Wikipedia if you want to hear more. But it is obviously a Civ game. It's been one of a long history of games, and in being a long history of game, it's like one of those games where you die a villain or you live long enough to become the hero, or you die, no other way around. You die a hero or you live long enough to become the villain. And so Civ 7 has launched, and it's launched to mixed reviews on Steam, and it's all the people who are giving it mixed reviews are the long-time, decades-long hardcore fans, because as with any game anywhere, if you change anything, and people just don't like change. So they want a new Civ 7. They want Civ 7, but they want it to be exactly like everything that they like what they're doing exactly right now. Well, that wouldn't be a Civ 7 then, guys. And everyone, even all of those people, seem to agree that it's really good at its foundation, and they expect in 2 years they will all go in and be changing their reviews to overwhelmingly positive, because that seems to be the way that development on these games goes as well. They do continue to update them, to add features, to add extensions, to the modding community fixes some things. The game developers themselves will fix some things. The user interface is something that people are kind of a little bit frustrated with now. It just doesn't show everybody the information in the moment that you kind of really wish it did. So that's where it's sort of like the sort of the foundation of its launch has been so far. Where is it at for me, you ask? Thank you for asking, Sema. Yeah. It's been a while, as I said, it's been a while since I played Civ games, and I know nothing. It does not hold your hand. It does not tell you what the hell is going on, and you kind of need to learn it. So the thing that's different about this Civilization games versus its previous titles is it's broken up, like a full playthrough is broken up into ages. So there's 3 ages: the Antiquity Age, the Exploration Age, and the Modern Age. And you pick a leader. So I picked Isabella, and I played a little bit of Catherine the Great, and I played a little bit of Queen Isabella. Queen Isabella is like, each of them has a different focus. So Queen Isabella focus is a little bit on expansionism and a little bit on economics, the economic gameplay, like trading. And I was like, all right, I'll get that. And I'm like learning it now. But you do, there's an in-game guide, and there's very few they're just starting to come out. Nobody really knows how to play the game completely yet, which is interesting. So it sort of gives you the freedom to explore and learn. And I didn't feel dumb or bad because all of the meta commentary isn't out there yet, and I got to sort of just like explore and learn. But you pick a civilization then in addition to your leader. So you say you pick the Mayans, or you pick a Roman or Greece, and so those are separate. Your leader doesn't need to match your civilization, your culture. And then when the age changes for the 3 ages, you can repick a culture. So you could pick a culture that more aligns with your goals for the next stage. So you're still building on top of all of your cities and your infrastructure and everything that you built in the previous age. But now you're bringing it into another age, and you can pick a different culture then. So you could like start with Mayans and then move to like Greco-Roman or Greece, and then move to like America as the culture. And I kept picking ones that were aligned. They each have sort of like 2 attributes, and I was picking ones that were aligned with what I was trying to do, cultural and expansionist. And then what I found was it's this cool combination of what every Civ game is, which is the different ways to go out and play the game and the different ways to win. And you could try to be a military leader and conquer other nations. You can try to be a trade leader and, get economic domination over the world. You can try to go after culture and like have like wonders and opera houses and plays, and you're building up points in all of the different 5 possible kind of like categories that you could be improving your gameplay, and you could win in all of the categories You could win by points by just having more points in all of the categories than anyone else. Or you can achieve a win condition in a particular category that kind of like wins the world. You set off a nuclear weapon because you researched enough science, and now you are clearly the dominant winner. That's like a win condition. So I'm still a novice, though, at even figuring those things out and figuring out what I need to do to like, it's a strategy game. And you really get the feel of that as you progress through an age and then like transition to the next stage, because you're feeling like, oh, well, if I had done, this and this, I'd be better set up for this in the next stage. And you do like learn as you go, which I found pretty fascinating. You do have your leader progressing throughout the game. You're definitely laying the foundation for the next stage. But there's also little quests that pop up and like little narrative things that pop up and little disasters that like the river floods, and you can respond to it in different little ways. There's a little bit of city building. So you have like the little, everything is, it's all hexagons, Sema, I'm sad to say. See your map is hexagons, but your little hexes, as they fit together and you put little different buildings on them, what buildings go next to which other buildings and what tiles you'll build up and like in which ways matters. And you sort of like learn that. So there's progression in that way too. The graphics are pretty good. Anytime you sort of like to build a major monument or discover a wonder, it like sort of like zooms in and you get a cutscene kind of view of what's going on. But when you zoom in as far as you can go on the map, you can get pretty close and you can sort of like see the buildings in that little tile. And so you have free zoom in and out. It's not like a different screen that you're going to go to see what's going on the map. So that looks pretty good. I think that's pretty neat and gives a cohesive feel to the world. Military wise, you also, you've got the other civilizations and the other cultures that are out there doing their thing. And there's diplomacy, so you can like make friends with them or not. And I tried to keep, because I was going for an economic win, I tried to stay friends with most of them. But there's also sort of like the independent peoples, which would have been like by barbarians in previous games. They exist too, and some of them are just hostile, so you can't like make friends with them. So there is a little bit of defense that you need to have, and you can butt heads with one of the other leaders and go to war. You could be a warring faction and try to conquer other peoples in general, and like build up your military that way. But yeah, so just definitely a ton of depth. So I was really, really surprised at how much depth and how far it could go. So I played 2 games overall. One game I just played through the Antiquity Age only and let it sort of transition over to get a look at it, and decided I wanted to do something different. And then my second game, I played Isabella, Expansionist, Greek culture, all the way into the modern age. And I think I'm about a third through the modern age. And so between those 2 playthroughs, it's been like 18 hours. So it's a lot. There's a lot going on. It's a long thing. You could, pick a game, play it on, but there's sliders. So you could say, I want to play a faster game. But I'm just playing on standard. And if you play for like an hour a night, you could play for weeks on a single playthrough, it seems, which I also thought was really interesting.
So it sounds like this game covers like the whole span of history, is kind of we understand it.
Yes.
From that, to me, it would have to be different from previous games because it's covering some of the same bar in the line of history.
You could still, what you did in previous games is you still sort of like, you started primitive and you could like end up with, airplanes and nuclear weapons by the end, but you didn't, the ages weren't as cohesive. It was just like, sort of like building, you build more buildings, sort of continue to build up. This is a little more cohesive, almost like a narrative, a story. You're in the age of antiquity. the land is unexplored. Everybody's a little bit tribal. Everybody's building up, and the things you do there are much more focused around the Age of Antiquity too. You got like, archers, and you're building like walls and fortifications where you're not like building walls in the modern age because nobody
But if
builds
you're
walls anymore. So it's interesting.
if you're like moving through are you moving through the ages though?
Yeah.
Or do you just so like what do you have to do to get into the next age?
Each thing that you do in the game, so say you build up a little city, you send out a settler, and now you've got 2 cities, and then you get 3 cities, and you fight some other people, you build up some economics, you do a couple quests, you're getting XP kind of. And all of those points are progressing the age. So on the screen now, if you can see it, there's like a chalice in the upper left. It's the thing in the upper left. And as things happen in the game, the age, sort of like the progress of the age, continues to progress. And when it
Gotcha.
gets to the end, it gets to the end. So you might want to play with that to some degree and like hold off on like completing your next wonder because you know that's going to push you over to the next age. So there's a little bit of strategy and gaming of that as well to move to the next stage at the appropriate time. And then there's also a little bit of a race condition, sort of like a soften rage at the end of the age. So as you get to like about 95%, you get like this, the catastrophe kind of happens to the world. A plague happens or something happens that provides a little bit of urgency to push into the next stage. And it escalates as you sort of like as time continues on. But that's not until you sort of like get to that 95% anyway. So you could slow things down earlier than that. But yeah. And then when it transitions over, any like armies that you had like out in the wilderness, they're kind of gone. Armies that you have garrisons in your city, they stay. The buildings and everything that you've got sort of like gotten your resources kind of stay, except they lose all of their like bonuses and stuff. So you're a little bit starting from scratch. You're keeping all of your territory, but you're a little bit starting from scratch on your tech trees and your progression. That all like resets for the new age. So you do want to sort of like lay a foundation, prepare, and then transition over, and you sort of like start again in the next stage with the focus of that next stage, which is kind of cool. I like that. And then the final part of the game, which I thought is fascinating too, which everybody could look forward to, and the people that are like going to be playing this as their main game for a long time, is there's a lot of meta progression. So outside of this individual match that you might play through the 3 ages, you have your leaders getting skills and progressing that like a skill tree that persists and like unlocks mementos that unlock and give them sort of like different capabilities that change their play style a little bit. That unlocks outside of sort of like in the meta progression, and you get to carry that in between games. That's a thing. You get cosmetic unlocks, a bunch of cosmetic, like titles that you can put on your, on your nameplate, and little nameplate frames around your nameplate icon, because you can play this online. You can play against friends and that kind of thing. So you got like little cosmetic stuff that unlocks. More cultures unlock, more leaders unlock. And there's little quests that you can be doing and achievements that you can get that unlock those things. So you might set up a playthrough of the game because you need to do a thing, like you need to do a military victory because that's going to unlock this thing. So you're going to do a whole playthrough just to go do that and get that achievement. So yeah, so I think there's so much to do in an individual game, and so much fun you can have, and so many variations. No 2 games are the same. Like I want to play Economic Expansionist again after this playthrough because I learned so much, for one. But I could play Economic Expansionist with different cultures. I could play Economic Expansionist where I'm focusing on expansion more than I was focusing on economics this time. I really love the treasure fleets. I did a little. You explore as soon as you get to the second age. You can cross the ocean and you can find foreign lands, right? And then if you establish a settlement in a foreign land with like foreign like these foreign resources like chocolate and coffee. If you also have a port for that foreign settlement, these treasure fleets then spawn, and you can then have the treasure fleet, you direct it to go back across the ocean to your main settlements. And there's a sort of like a win condition, a way to win just by having like 20 treasure fleets over time. And I had fun doing that. I like the little treasure fleet. I had like a good setup for treasure fleets, and I built up a little navy. And I like explored it, got my little settlements. But then I got to the next stage, and my treasure fleets and all my economic setup were kind of like weren't well positioned for the modern age, and that stuff didn't work. So I don't know what I had to like. I don't know. I did not do well in the modern age, and I had like a bunch of alliances and friends, and I was like friends with Charlemagne, and he's cool to me. And then like every other turn in the modern age, they're all like spying. Charlemagne sent a spy, and they stole technology from you, and Charlemagne gets 600 technology points from you. You suck. Like what is going on? You're my bud. I've got like a little heart underneath Charlemagne. What do you like spying on? And then the next turn somebody else spies on me. So I had no idea. I was woefully unprepared for. I guess it's all about spying and espionage, and I don't know what's going on in the modern age. I was like late in building railroads and factories. There's a whole new like build an explorer and build a university and send the explorer to the university, and then he'll find the treasures. I was like, fine, okay. But I build an explorer, I build a university, I send him to the university to go study, and like, nope, all the treasures have already been found on this continent. I don't know why you're bothering to send him to a university. I spent 7 turns building a university. I don't know what's going on. And that's like a whole nother sort of like new feature, is like sending the explorers out to like do archaeological digs. So I don't know. But so there's a bunch of like narrative stuff. You sort of get immersed in the world, and my feelings were hurt when Charlemagne spied on me and that kind of thing. And Lafayette was an asshole. I'm not doing a military playthrough, but if I was, me and Lafayette would be throwing fists because he was being a jerk to me all game. There's another one of the other leaders, Hephaestus or whatever her name was. She was always angry at me because my settlements were too close to her territory. So she's like, get off of my backyard. I'm like, I'm trying to be nice. I'm not fighting. I'm not going to do anything. We're all cool. Kept trying to be nice to her. And then everybody's spying on me. So you feel that too. You feel that that's a fun part of the game. Get the feel of that. Make friends with some of those independent tribes. And, get the feel of what you did wrong. Also, different, better choices you could have made to do better between the ages. And I did. I got into it. I really felt a lot of that. So yeah, pretty cool. What do you think, Tyler? Does this sound like a version of the game that you would go off and play?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think there's a lot of like just from you mentioning it, there's a lot of new things that I think kind of got hung up on the older versions, like the ages thing. Being able to switch your leader is pretty cool and interesting.
Yep.
And like adapt your play style through the game.
Yeah.
The fact that you even finished 2 games is kind of crazy. I feel like I played so much of like Civ 5 and 6, and I'm trying to think like how many games I actually finished. Like it wasn't that much, because I'd start one and then I'd be like, I
Yeah.
forgot where I left off, or just start another one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I did the first one. I only got through the first age, and same thing. I just like, I'm gonna start over. Do something different. So I could see that. I could even see abandoning the one I have right now in the modern age, and I kind of like pushed through. I would have abandoned it already, but I wanted to like see more of the modern age. But I'm like, I could have done better.
Right.
I could see that.
And I have this problem too with like, I always wanted to play the marathon mode, which is like the longest mode, because I hated feeling like rushed to finish certain things. I wanted to like be able to have more time or whatever, or like I never like researched that thing fast enough. Everyone got there before me. That's interesting.
There's like 5 or 6 different speeds. There's
Mhm.
only 3 map sizes, which people are a little bit disappointed in. They wanted more map sizes, more map flexibility. But again, they think that's something that people will be able to, or that they'll expand on, and um, something that that modders are already working on. So I even saw an article today that modders are already tweaking map sizes, UI, a bunch of those kinds of things, and then they expect the developer and expansions. They think just from like looking at the structure of the game, there might even be like a 4th age that gets added on, because right now the modern age ends around, you could think of it as like the 1940s, 50s, 60s at most. It doesn't get into like the information age. So people wonder if that's, then there's speculation that that age may get it added on an expansion, that kind of thing. So yeah, I agree. It's just, there's just so much depth, and the replayability is part of the fun. I mean, there's no, except, well, but there's the meta playthrough now too. How much of that was there in the previous games of like, well, you want to get the achievement to unlock the thing, and you want the new title to put on your nameplate.
I don't think there was much of that. It was more just like I'm trying to think if there was any of that, like any like playthrough carryover.
Yeah, I wonder if they
Um,
started adding it in 6 quite a bit more. I don't know, somebody in the chat room might know, but it definitely seems to be a significant element to me. It really caught my eye when I was sort of like looking at what would you do in the long term playing this game, and I could see this being just
yeah.
the game somebody plays for for 10, 15 hours a week, not forever, for the next 3-5 years till Civ 8 comes out. Seems like there's
Because
plenty of
that
that.
makes you want to keep playing.
Yeah.
It
Right.
gives you some progression versus just like
Yeah.
I don't know. Because before it felt like a board game, where it's just
Right.
it's like, all right, let's set it back up, let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is the enjoyment in the moment and the enjoyment in the journey.
Yeah.
But then once you have that meta progression as well, that's even more. And it also leads you into, which I like, it leads you into trying things that you might not have done in the base game. You might like get into a comfort zone and play, economic expansionist over and over, play it 3 different ways at 3 different civilizations, and then feel like you've played the game, and maybe you really haven't played the game at all. And you see an achievement that says, "Oh, try to do this thing." If you get Machiavelli as your leader, he's all about the alliances and the spying, and gets like bonuses to all of that. You could go deep into that. Now I'll find out why I was getting spied on all the time. So you might learn new ways to play with that kind of meta achievement set system, which I think is good, and I think that's a good feature for a game to go after. In the same way that like the No Man's Sky expeditions expose those new features and teach you new ways to play the game.
Yeah, it kind of guides you through it. It's interesting too because it's sort of like I bet it would be good if you were playing a lot of multiplayer to play the different play styles so like what each person is looking for. Like, oh, it looks like this
Yes.
guy's going for the space victory if that's even still a thing.
Right.
Um, but it's like, okay, I gotta make sure I remove that tech from him every time I can, kind of thing.
Right. Right. That reminds me
Interesting.
of like PvP in I did this a lot when I was like playing PvP a lot in WoW. I forced myself to play PvP matches as like the different the other classes, so that when I
Mm-hmm.
met that class in a PvP game, I would have some more understanding of their skill set and their counters and that kind of thing.
Exactly.
All right, final note on that before we wrap it up for today is I don't know why, but they are making a VR version of Civ 7. So there's it's mod makers making it. It's not. Is it just mod makers? No, it's a full. No, Firaxis is going to make a VR game. Yeah, no. So this is Firaxis is going to do like later this spring. They're going to launch Sid Meier's Civ 7 for VR, and it's going to be MetaQuest 3 and 3S. But I say I don't know why because I don't know. It doesn't seem like primed for that platform, for one. I think it'd be cool, but I think people will play it as nobody's gonna like play Civilization that way as the main way they play. It might be fun to sort of experience it that way. And if you could go back and forth, that might be fun. But the the capability and flexibility of being able to like zoom around on a big screen and with a keyboard and mouse, I just can't see playing with Quest and like trying to move around the world and see it. Really cool to see and play, but that does not seem to lend itself well to that platform, for one. And for two, nothing does that well in VR these days. I would love for it to be a breakout hit, though. VR needs a killer app, and it doesn't have one.
I think everyone just wants the Dejarik or whatever from Star Wars, the Star Wars chess.
Yeah. But yep, very, very cool, fun. So 2 fun games we got to talk about today. Really appreciate you coming on, Tyler.
Thanks for having me, guys.
That was great to hear about it.
Can't wait to see the texturing, and then the rigging and animation is what Tyler also does. When we get that raccoon walking around, chunky boy raccoon, we'll put it up in our Discord and on the social media feeds for the game. That'll be really cool to see. But Tyler already did, and we're going to show it soon. Got some news. We've got a social media intern. I'm waiting for him to get his stuff set up and let him do a first couple posts. But Tyler just finished up the Cardinal in the last week or so, and it's flying around our gardens. So it is.
Yep.
That's been a really fun thing. We've got a lot of more. Tyler already did all the animations, but we haven't stitched them together and sort of like the behavior tree. So right now it just sort of like floats around, flies around like the bee does. But Tyler's got it so it can like land, it can perch on like the branches of the trees. It can hover in the air. It can sort of like do takeoff and landing animations, and a bunch of things. So I'm really excited to get that implemented as well. But yes, so if anybody wants to come chat with Tyler more, jump in any of our Discords, jump in the Garden and the Goat Discord, ask him how he does his amazing magic. I told you, Stask. I hinted to Sema. I have designed a set of about 35 achievements for the game. I already scoped it out. I've got them all in a spreadsheet. And we've implemented about the first 5 actually in the engine because I made the system for the achievements to work. There is an achievement called, "Do you like jazz?" As I said, I don't know if we're going to keep it, but there is an achievement that's entitled "You Like Jazz?" ? Yes. But yeah, so everybody come say hi to Tyler, and you can also then maybe get hints and see what some of his work on TV shows for Hollywood has been, because that's amazing, and he's got some amazing skills and stories for how that kind of thing happens too. But that is it for us for today. All the feed subscribe links are on newoverlords.com, and our videos on YouTube/newoverlords. Please come chat with us in our Discord at newoverlords.com/Discord. or gardenandgoat.com/Discord. I think that /Discord, or the Discord link is there. You can find that too. You can also follow us for all those things on all the social networks. We've got all the links in both of those places, and we'll keep you up to date there too. And with that, we will talk to you soon.
Later, everyone.